she wanted to get her hair and makeup right. You know, she was getting up at 4:30 and getting on the bus. I understand, you know, that.
What does Lawrence County do? They bus them from out of Martha all the way into Louisville. You know where Martha is?
That's what I know.
Oh, I was riding from the line down there too.
Yeah.
That's a ride.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing, what I would like to see, when I talk to Mr. Lucian, I've just been spill the beans, I'd like to see a 2 K through 8. Let all the kids on that side of the hill go to Warfield Middle at Warfield K through 8. That way there, you don't have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, everybody going there. You have a Warfield K through 8 school there. Shut down Warfield Elementary. Make Inez Middle School, Inez K through 8. Let all the, you know, you've got that, leave Eden the way that it is, and which means that you've got to close two elementary schools and build a new high school. That is a very, very workable, a really good economic plan. We ain't going to have to maintain all these buildings, maintain all this stuff, put all these roofs on here. We're not going to have to pay all this cost of travel expenses.
Let me ask you, are we still paying on bonds on any school other than Warfield? Well, how many years were they? How many years were they bonded for? Well, probably 20 years. Well, how many years into those have we paid? Can we refinance?
Well, I think the bonding is going to be clearer in 2 years.
The largest one will be paid off in 2018.
It's 1-2 years.
How is that going to affect this tax increase? I mean, as far as revenues go?
That's included in the consideration of our bonding potential.
Basically, the new payments are wrapped around those old payments coming off. It's structured assuming those are going to pay off. The 18 million assumes that debt rolling off, wrap it around that stuff rolling off.
And Jim Bush saying that he
It's
would
all
build us
factored in.
a new high school.
That's a rumor.
They've had a lot of people talking this, and I just.
I've heard that same.
That's a rumor, yeah.
I'm for it if he wants to.
Yeah, I've heard the same. I've heard the same. Yeah, it's
Okay.
My name is Tim Brewer, and I have a real quick question. You guys are saying that all of us are suffering because of previous boards.
I never said previous boards. I said some previous decisions. I'm not saying.
Came from previous board, but
From
anyway.
previous board.
I'm saying it could be other than previous board. Again, I would like to say too that.
Could I finish what I had
Yeah,
to say?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Whatever you said about us being cramped and put out of place and all this stuff. At the time that whoever made those decisions to put us in that situation, I'm sure that they were probably thinking that they were doing the right thing. And my question is to you, are we doing the right thing? 12 years from now, are they going to come, somebody going to be in here saying, well, you know, the previous board, you know, they put us in this situation.
I never said previous board, but I will say they had part in it. There's other.
I say previous board.
Okay, I got to look. But you're right. This is like Mr. Mills has stated over and over. Our kids have been really, and as far as our people in Martin County, have been so patient. And I happened to listen to the ball game last night and wasn't home, but I heard Mr. Mills' message. I wish you could have heard it. You did a great job. And how our kids, how resilient they've been relocated, put out your high school, especially our seniors. And I admire them greatly, and not just them, but their parents and grandparents for what they had to go through.
They didn't have a choice.
They had any choice.
I thought they didn't have
Well, that's right. They didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice. When they say that your high school cannot withstand a substantial blasting event, yeah, we might have had a choice if the coach seen and said we're not going to blast anymore. But no, they blasted even more after that. So it's like, you know, we're going to blast away. We could care less about your kids or your school before they got you put in your school or your kids.
Well, ain't there nothing you can do to make the construction company
Well,
help fund it?
we're in the process of seeing what, you know.
That was,
The question is, are you doing the right thing with all these taxes you keep nailing on everybody?
that's a matter of opinion.
I mean, it's a simple question.
I know.
Well, you're looking for a good faith effort with the nickel, but I think what you're saying here is we would like some sort of assurance that there's going to be an attempt by the board to make this construction company pay, as you say, for making us move from the high school and putting the whole county in this.
I mean, that's not.
But I know you,
That's not
I
even.
know
That's
there's
not even.
limitations on what you can say about litigation, but at the same time, I would feel, as a taxpayer, I'd feel much better about ponying up an extra $25 or so if I knew that you guys were going to go after this company and the blaster, both of whom I understand from other sources have already made a tentative offer to settle another lawsuit with some neighbors up the road. Mike not know more about that than I do.
See, what he's talking about is envelops the entire cost structure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
there's going to be possibly, we just don't know how much and we don't know when a settlement will occur. We don't know how much money could be applied to this construction, which would reduce the amount of bonding. And I don't know, I mean, Lawrence attorneys here, some of these cases litigate for as long as 20 years. I don't think this one would.
Yeah, well, that's the reason we give the state emergency funding. I mean, that's the
if we
purpose for that.
If we could get, if there's already a possibility of a settlement, you're looking at dollars, how many dollars? You know, what's the cost on this thing? I'm not sure that I see from you all a cost. It looks like it's like Jello, it's moving about.
What cost? I mean, you asked for concrete numbers a moment ago.
Let
me just say, okay, let me say again. We have $18 million and some change with this nickel on the table. Concrete. The architect has given us the projected cost of the new high school without the co-located ATC for $18 million on the current site. I mean, that's concrete. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, that'll build a high school for this community with the numbers that we have, without any litigation, compensation, state assistance at all. We've done it for ourselves. We did it. No one had to help us, or no one, even if they wanted, even if they did, we could do it on our own with that nickel.
How many students you want to have going to accommodate?
600 to 750 is a span. When you build a facility, it goes from 600 to 750. We have 600 now, so you have to build with what you have now. I mean, KDE will consider projected population, student population, but we're not expected to lose as we have lost in the last 15 years.
Yeah, you bottom out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bottomed out.
So,
I mean, according to the,
I don't know if we can get any more concrete, but those are projected estimated costs of a turnkey facility for a high school, not the co-located ATC, but for the high school. So that's a pretty close, hard number.
Have you got any?
Are you saying turnkey, and just for my clarification, are you saying turnkey specifically, which would mean that you'd hire a general contractor as opposed to a construction manager? Because Codell has been going around with W. Keith and Senator looking for funding.
Well,
and Codell is the construction manager.
Well, Codell's a builder as well. He does perform just like all construction, or most construction companies. They will also provide construction manager costs. And for those in the audience that may not understand, when a large project, multi-million-dollar project, like a school, you hire an architect, which may or may not be with the building firm. You don't want it to be. It's not wise. You want some accountability in there. Then you get a building firm. Well, you build a house. You know how many. If you get someone to build your house, you're going to get a contractor. What's that contractor going to do? He or she's going to subcontract out to about 15 other companies. A builder will just, since you mentioned the name, we'll use Codell Construction as an example. If we bid a job to build a new high school, and he's the builder, it would be wise for the board to get a construction manager from another firm who will ensure there's accountability, so, because you don't want change, what's called change orders, meaning over costs, unintended costs, unforeseen costs. So a construction manager works for the board or for the entity that's building to keep the construction, the builder, held to account, and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're supposed to be doing, to keep costs down. There's also a tax incentive there too, when you use a construction manager. So would we use a construction manager if we went with a builder? I would recommend that to the board, certainly.
So you'd be paying two people?
Well, it's actually,
companies to build steel?
no, it would be the same, because your construction company, they're also going to have a construction manager in there. Well, that cost is in there. If you don't go with a construction manager with Codell and you go with another CM, then the cost is a wash. There is an incentive for taxes, for purchase of materials with a construction manager that you would not get if the builder and the construction manager was the same firm. So that's another reason why
Who's
we're going
paying
to
the
see.
CM?
But I'd like to address a very valid question, concern that you have. What distinguishes this group or this superintendent from 15 years ago or 20 years ago? How do we know? I mean, you can be sincere, but sincerely wrong.
I was just curious.
Right, absolutely.
If everything was good, are we going to be looking at this again in 12 years? Or
No, I don't think.
In every
No, I don't think
form
so.
that I can only say this.
No.
My vision, what I'm trying to convey is that we don't want to build for today. We can't afford that. And that's the board here. And I've always said, we can't build for today. We have to position ourselves for the future, 15 to 20 years from now. And it takes an incredible amount of work. And I'm not doing it all myself. The board does it. The administrators do it. We use data from the consensus, feds, the state, and everywhere to where we can get where the job market is going. We just discussed that with our leadership here. What was it, yesterday morning, Martha, maybe? What's the emerging job market? What's the skills that are needed? What is going to be needed in Eastern Kentucky, in the region? So all I can say is this: my vision is to create a school, a learning community for the future, not for today. Can I stand up? I can't take or sitting down. The facility that we're in right now for our high school kids will not change for 2 years. Matters not if you build a new facility or renovate. It will be inadequate for 2 more generations of kids. This year and 2 more. We can't kick the can down the road any further. There is a sense of urgency. And when you have a sense of urgency, there's always there's room for making mistakes and not making the perfect and wise decision. But I want to be, and to this board and to this community, as transparent as I possibly can, because this community's got to come to the table and make the decision. You can ask the board. I've always advocated this. The community has to want this. They've got to want it. We can't, a board in Martin County, Pike County, Fulton County, on the western part of the state, you can't force a facility on a community. Schools don't need communities. Communities need schools. And you got to want it. This nickel on the table says we want it. I don't know how we got here exactly, financially or the buildings. I can give some idea. I can look back and see where decisions were made, and I can line it up with the populations that we had and the data they had then. I don't know exactly how we got here. All I know, folks, is where we are today is a mess for our kids, compounded by a construction company that, done some blasting and threw rocks on our school and made it unsafe. So I try to deal with what we have today and what we can do for ourselves. Our kids need an adequate facility. They do not have it right now. Won't have it for 2 more generations of kids. We've got to do something now because we can't delay the urgency of that. If no one comes to Martin County and says, you know what, like LBJ did, and probably some of you are around, we landed his bird out here and walked up to Fletcher's house and said, we're going to declare war on poverty, and as in some way we're going to make it disappear. Well, it hasn't. Why? Because it's about the people here. We have to decide whether we're going to solve poverty. We have to decide what we're going to invest in for the future. So the people in this community has to want it. Putting that nickel on the table says, look, I don't care if Frankfurt helps me or not. And quite frankly, and you go back to when I even interviewed for this position, I'm not an advocate of asking for money, whether it's from the feds or states, because as soon as you do, you're hooked.
Yeah.
You got to do what they tell you, or they take their money back. It's like an addict. They give you the drug, and then they go, feels pretty good, doesn't it? Now you got to do what I tell you. So aside from that, I wish I could, give a blood oath. But
Bottom line is, nobody wants to pay more taxes. I think everybody wants a new school. I don't think there's any question about that. Everybody wants the kids to benefit. The kids benefit, the community benefits, okay? Nobody wants to pay new taxes, and I was just asking, before I go take my car or truck to a body shop someplace, when I could get it for half that down here, do I want to go down here and do that, or do I want to know that these people here are doing everything they can to do the right thing?
Yeah.
That was the point of my question.
without hesitation, I tell you, I'm doing everything I can to make it happen.
Well, that's one of the reasons, like, down there with Mr. Lucas, when we went down on the board, to get our training. And one of the things that I attended this session for, facility construction, all that. And, got around to the thing of, how large you build a school. And I did ask that question, and he's aware of what we face here in Mark County. Now, a while ago I said I was optimistic. Everybody was, 5 years from now, coal and everything be gone. That's a possibility. Okay, but another possibility is that there could be a huge boom. There could be. And what if we build a school that can accommodate 700 kids, and then all of a sudden we got a need to educate 900. And they acknowledge that is a possibility. People don't know what's going to happen. Natural gas is cheap, yeah, but the price of gas is going up. And we could.
Well, I think you went to the same meeting I did at the B.O.E. Of course, they allow, KGE is, you get 30, or they got a formula which they go by, 30-35% more than what the students, for that.
And we can build a school with the possibility of expansion. That's the whole thing. Here, we're not in the Golden Triangle down there, all that where there's, jobs coming in. But coal could rebound. Coal could be like it was in the 70s and stuff when I went, mines. Or if you didn't like it over here, if they treat you bad, you went on the other side of the hill and worked.
Well, like you said back there, Mr. Meadows has stated to me over and over and over again, we got to do it. We got to do it right. We got to get, like he's always said, we got to hit a home run. Taxes, again, that's political suicide. I got to do it. We got to do it right, because I'm not going to be around a very long, but I want to see the kids of Martin County. I've taught for 38 years. I love the kids of Martin County. I think they could compete with if they're given the opportunity and they're given the means or the resources to compete with, like your daughter, anybody in the state of Kentucky.
How much are we talking about being compensated for old high school from the construction job in the state or here? How much money are we going to get out of that?
That's something that we'll find out.
So we don't know.
They're right, and they'll have to pay. Before you go to this tax, why don't you see what you're going to get?
One thing about that, about the code thing, which I get off track, but
that could be 10, 15 years down the road.
Well, does this board not have some kind of insurance itself? Like you carry insurance on your car.
And I'll give you the crux of this. The same insurance company that carry us, guess who else they carry?
Well, that's the reason we have lawyers.
But you know who else they carry? The construction company.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is being, sped up for our benefit. That's just me personally. It's just just an average guy, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just saying it seems like the wheels of progress have slowed to a screeching halt.
Who is this insurance company?
Liberty Mutual. Ohio Casualty.
And of course, Cocosing's position is, we have a damaged hospital.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that.
So
they
what
can
you're
slow-
saying is, the insurance company you got is gonna have to pay you, plus the insurance company they got is gonna have to pay you for their damage.
Well, this is kind of unrelated to the tax hearing, but let me just give you an example. We wrote a $98,000 check to ServPro to move the instructional content and resources from the old high school building across the street, which, by the way, was consideration of using Inez Middle School rather than Warfield because of the cost involved in moving, of which we didn't have. That's money out of the general fund. To move it to Warfield, almost doubled that. It was going to be around $130,000. One of the reasons why we didn't go that route. There were some other reasons, but I can't even get $98,000 back. That's public knowledge. Isn't that public knowledge? I can't even get a $98,000 reimbursement from them.
It is now.
And we're talking
The
about.
board have a lawsuit filed against this.
Well, I don't think you can answer directly to that, other than the board has been very aggressive in positioning itself in the best manner possible. Mike, would you like to?
No, I can't discuss it, but I will tell you this. Whatever amount of money that the board, the insurance company, or coaching is a drop in the bucket compared to what it costs to build a new school. I wouldn't, the reality is, my experience, that's all I can say, representing boards, is you have to have the money before you have to have the vote, you have to have the tax increase, the money available before you can go forward and do anything else, because nobody's going to let you drive, go test drive a car when they know you can't buy it. So the board has to take some action. Floyd County's tax rate will be up. I've been the board attorney there for 16 years. They enacted the nickel tax last fall to be able to consolidate South Floyd and Allen Central into one school. So, and they were in the same position this board is. You have to have the money before you can get the planning, and the state will give you an approval, and that's where it is. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But the process they're following is the correct process. That's all I can say.
But on the damage that occurred as a result of the blasting up there, I would assume that somebody has appraised that damage and has come up with a figure that would be usable in court, and when you're asking for damages before you tear the building down.
There's been no less than 3 examinations of the building that the board has put forward. Our insurance company has done 2. So I don't know exactly what the damages are. That's still that's currently being pursued. What are the damages that are in as a direct impact from or effect from the blasting? That's how we're trying to position ourselves going forward.
Well, we all know that the building was somewhat dilapidated prior to the dynamiting. It's kind of like having an old car with one side of it sideswiped. What's it worth? And then somebody comes along and hits the other side.
That's not my position. The building was in good shape. Hey, if you had, that's right. That's it. It was in great shape. It was good enough to have.
It was usable.
It was good enough to have school there, so it's all right.
All right. Is there any further comments regarding the tax rate?
How much insurance do we have on that building?
We do have there is like replacement value. We have that. I did not bring the replacement value with me. I brought things for the tax hearing, but not the replacement value. But I think it was is it like 27?
I think somewhere.
It's like a $25 million replacement. That means.
That could build a building back.
Well,
You don't go there because that's not true, and you're going to get yourself. You're here for a tax hearing. You ought to have your tax hearing.
Well, it's relative.
How many tax
You got
hearings?
that much insurance, you could be able to take that and rebuild the building.
This is it.
Only one?
Only one tax hearing. This is the only tax rate.
Any further comments on the tax rate?
I don't have one on the tax rate, but I have been in Frankfurt for 2 days with the senators and the representatives. And they did say that Mr. Meadows has worked diligently in trying to get a new school for this county. And that the board members was there and that they spoke very highly of B.O.E. And they said that they are doing everything in their power to help Martin County get a new school. But I just wanted these people to know that.
Who said that?
I was with all the legislators and the senators.
Oh,
And ours, that we have Mr. Jones and Mr. Hall, they said that they are working very hard with this board to get a high school for Martin.
Got one more question. I pay about $1,700 on my property. How much will that cost me more on a year?
Well, I don't know the exact calculations for your property. You're paying $1,700. I don't know what you have and how much it's going to increase. I just know that the end result is going to be 68 cents per hundred, or 68.6 per hundred.
About how much more?
Cost about $80 or $90
I
a year.
never do math in public, but that's.
Well, it's eight.
So it'd be about $1,800
something
instead of $1,700.
It's 8 something cents additional, or say it's 8 cents additional on a $100,000 house, it'd be $80 a year.
And you're saying we'll pay it for 20 years, it's pretty well basic.
Then it'll go up.
Any further comments? There's no further comments. Any further discussion from the board? Any motion to approve the recallable nickel, resulting in a tax rate of 68.6 cents?
Yeah, I'm a little vague on exactly what a recall the nickel is. Is this anything like the payroll tax that Kelly instituted a few years ago that was to meet a temporary emergency and has become less temporary every year? Is saving.
My understanding
was that this was just to show a good faith to the Department of Education that we were willing to pay our own way or help pay our own way.
It's our contribution.
Right. I understand that, but let's say people buy into this idea of when could this nickel be recoverable? I guess is the question. And will it be recoverable?
You mean, well, actually, let me first back up. Chairman put a motion on the table, so you want to, I want to address this.
Oh.
I know, and I don't want to stop the debate. I want to answer your question, but he did take a motion. Usually you get a second, then there's discussion, but can we go ahead and, is that okay with the board? When it's called a recallable nickel, it's an equalization of what it is. Recallable means that there is a window of opportunity for the community to recall the levy that the board has placed on. Back in August, when we did the 4%, that's not recallable. Every year, any board in the state of Kentucky can go 4%. It's not recallable. It's up to the 5 board members, or how many board members that you have. Jefferson County may have 7 or 8, but once the levy is put on, the board can put up 4%, or they can just leave their compensating rate. But the recallable is anything above that 4% has to be, or can be recalled if Gary, I think you put this in the paper, 10% registered voters.
Yeah, if
Gotta go
10%
establish
registered
position,
voters
put it on
on
ballot,
election.
and vote the nickel